how to manage your money like the 1% rich. I'm going to take you step by step through the 7 accounts you need. And by the way, not just saving, but investing to behave like the rich. Now, whether you save and invest 50 a month, 500 a month, or 5,000 a month, doesn't matter. If you follow this system, in the end, you will possibly be in the 1% and you will be rich like the 1% and you will manage your money like the 1%. So every time you get paid, number one, you want to move some money into a high interest savings account. Now, what I deem a high interest savings account is one that beats inflation by a margin, maybe by 1%. Because if it doesn't beat inflation, how can it be deemed as a high interest savings account? Because it's net negative. Now, this sounds crazy to tell you this, but most people, the majority of people, they leave their money in a current or a checking account. Every day your money is in a current account or a checking account, earning 0 point something percent interest, you are losing 3, 4, or 5% a year in interest. And that compounds up over years and decades. And it could be tens or hundreds of thousands of pounds, that lost time. The maximum you want to leave in a current account would be 3 months' expenses. Now, back in the day, when interest rates were rewarding, you'd get taught by people like Bill Gates that you'd want 1 or 2 years living expenses or business expenses in the bank. People do not trust the banks like they used to. You're not getting the interest over inflation like you used to. And here's something you have to really watch out for. The interest rates could go up, but the banks don't pass the interest rates on to you. They're very quick to drop interest rates on your savings when the interest rates drop. They're very slow to drop the interest rates on your mortgages and loans when they drop. But when interest rates go up, they're very quick to push up your mortgages and loans and very slow to put up your interest payments. So because now more than ever, it's really easy to move money around, as long as you don't lock your money away for years, which sometimes, by the way, you can get a higher interest if you lock your money away, but you need to make sure you're liquid and you can access those 3 months living expenses quickly. So I would keep a maximum of 3 months expenses in a current or checking account, and the rest is going to go into a high interest account. Now, I do not save most of my money in a bank savings account. I use an investing platform like Hargreaves Lansdown, and I think this is really good. Now, we finally got some good news in the UK, where the amount that you're apparently insured has gone up from 85,000 to 120,000. I do not want to leave any more than 85,000 pounds in a bank account. Now, the more rich you get, the harder it is to spread your money, because 85,000 pounds might not be a lot of money to you, and you might need 20 different bank accounts. And that becomes an administrative nightmare. So here's what you do. I recommend you set up an account on Hargreaves Lansdown. Now, I've been using that app for 17, 18 years. I don't get a commission for recommending them. It's just one I've used for nearly 2 decades. And the great thing about that is you can transfer money directly into this investing app. And then you can go and search for all the best savings accounts, and you can invest into multiple savings accounts through your Hargreaves Lansdown app. So I recently chose an entrepreneurial bank as well as a high interest bank, and I'll de-risk my money being in one bank account by moving into many. Now, some of the best interest accounts, they'll want you to leave your money in there for 6 months or a year. I don't really like that unless you've got good liquidity. Okay, the second account that you want to have, if you want to be in the top 1%, is a stocks and shares investing account. Now, that might be to put money in the S&P 500, the FTSE 100, the FTSE 250. Just so you know, the FTSE 100 has a lot of international investments. It's only really the FTSE 250 that has a lot of purely British companies. The S&P has grown a lot more than the FTSE 100 in recent times. And so therefore, many people think that the FTSE is undervalued compared to the S&P. A lot of people think that, there's a bubble right now and there is going to be a potential crash. But if you spread your risk by investing in the S&P 500, the FTSE 100 or 250, even some other emerging market spread stocks, then this is a good way to protect your money and to grow it. So personally, I don't like trading. I don't like investing in individual stocks. Most people don't beat the market. So a fund of fund where you put the money in and then it auto invests and reallocates investments according to what's in and out of the S&P 500 or the FTSE 100. And then also bonds versus equities. And Vanguard Life Strategy is one I've been using for many years now. I don't get a commission from Vanguard. It's not a recommendation. It's just one that I've been using. BlackRock have a very popular investing fund. The problem with BlackRock is they control a lot of money. Now, I think it's important to reinvest your dividends. If you draw your dividends at the start, you're going to make tiny amounts of money, but you're going to lose compounding. And the famous Charlie Munger, who passed away recently, business partner to Warren Buffett, he said that the number one rule of compounding is to not interrupt it. So what you do is you set up on Charles Stanley, then you set up putting your direct debit or your standing order in every month. If you've got 100, fine. If you've got 500, fine. It doesn't matter how much, it just matters that there's the consistency of it. And then you might auto invest it into Vanguard Life Strategy. And then that Vanguard Life Strategy will just move it around all these stocks and shares and bonds for you. And you don't have to do anything. And it's been performing very well. Obviously, many people believe there's going to be a correction coming. I actually transferred a few $100,000 out of one of my stocks and shares portfolios, and I bought a 35,000 square foot property with it because I thought, you know what? I think the stock market's high, property in my area. I just bought a property for 2.25 million that was on the market for 6 million in 2020. So I moved, I'd made many profits over 15 years in this particular portfolio, sold it, and I put the money into this property. So I'm just telling you that, maybe you don't want to put all of your money into the stock market right now. That being said, I view the stock market as a better savings account than a bank. It's almost as liquid. It takes max 5 days, and it can take less to sell your shares and get the money in your bank. So 99.9% of people experiencing problems aren't going to go bust if they have to wait 5 days for their money. Now, of course, if you've got money in savings, the liquidity is potentially immediate. But banks are stopping you paying big amounts in. They're stopping you taking big amounts out. They're questioning where you got the money from. They're limiting the amount you can pay, say, into crypto to $1,500 a transaction or $5,000 a month. So do you actually know that the banks are as liquid and as safe as you think? So for me, I've always seen my stock market portfolio as my savings account and the banks purely as immediate liquidity money that I need and can't live without. My direct debits that I pay, buying your coffee and your travel and your general living expenses, you need the bank for that. But that's all I think you should use a bank for. And I do not see a bank as a savings account. Savers are losers. So the third account you should have, in the UK, it's called an ISA, an independent savings allowance or independent savings account. And that is a tax-free wrapper where you can get up to 12 grand a year cash savings, tax-free, and 20 grand a year stocks and shares or investing ISA. Now they have their equivalent in America and the amounts will be different, but a stocks and shares standard account is different from an ISA stocks and shares. Now, within your Hargreaves Lansdown or your Charles Stanley account, you can set up your ISA, and it's just like basically a separate file on your app. And when you put your money into the ISA, it's wrapped and protected from tax. And then you can still invest it in the same fund. So you could put money into your ISA and that could go into Vanguard Life Strategy. It's separate from your other stock market portfolio that goes into Vanguard Life Strategy. But what it means is you get 20 grand a year as a personal allowance, tax-free. And then you can do one for your partner, so your husband or wife, I wonder if you've got 9 wives, if you could do this for 10 of you. I'm not sure. Probably can. I just have 1 wife. So 1 for you, 1 for your husband or wife, and you can do a junior ISA or a JISA, as they call it, which is for your children. Now, I'm not a fan of the cash ISA. In fact, in the UK, they just reduced the allowance from 20 grand to 12 grand. Really, because, okay, they say they want you to encourage you to invest. But even without the tax, savers are losers. And so you cannot get rich saving. You can only get rich investing. So hopefully I've made that point enough. Okay, right. So the 4th investing account I think you should have is a crypto investing account. I don't think I have more than 2% of my net worth in crypto. Maybe even less. Now, some people would say that's crazy, and some people have a huge amount of their net worth in crypto. I think that's really dangerous. Crypto, it's not really that proven. It's not even 2 decades old. Property is thousands of years old. Gold is millions of years old. Crypto is 20 years old. That being said, buy in the dips. So you might buy Bitcoin in the dips if you think that it's a low price. Many of these new cryptos are likely to go to zero, but maybe Bitcoin has proven it by now. I'm not here to sell you or tell you whether crypto is good or bad, but for sure it's good to have a crypto investing account. I use Coinbase. Again, I'm not promoted or paid to recommend them, but I use Coinbase. I have 80% of my crypto money in Bitcoin. I also see my Bitcoin account as a savings account. My goal is to never sell it because I've sold Bitcoins. I sold a few Bitcoins at 5,000 a coin. So that was rather silly. My goal is to just save and never touch my Bitcoin. So that is a crypto investing account, probably Coinbase. That's number 4. Number 5 is you're going to want a business account. So a merchant provider or a business bank account. Sometimes you can get them from the same bank. So something like Stripe, so you can take money as a business, and then a business account so that you can manage your business cash. You make big money in your business. I was at London School of Economics on a talk about wealth taxes. And basically, the main revenue generator for the rich is business. So, governments try and tax property or other asset classes, and it's just tiny amounts of money. Even the new mansion tax, it's only going to generate 400 million. Now, the total tax generation a year in the UK is about 1.1 trillion. So it's a tiny amount. So business is where all the wealth is generated for the rich. So if you don't have a business, you're going to want to start a business one day. You're going to want a side hustle at the very least. Now, by the way, in addition to business being where the real wealth is built, business is where all the good tax breaks are. There are, of course, good tax breaks in property, but I would say 70, 80% of the best tax breaks are in business. I mean, the main tax break in a business is you can run your general expenses through it as long as they're for business purposes. But if your life and business are quite merged, like a lot of people's are now in the modern era, like you might be a creator, for example, or you might sell online, then a lot of what you're currently paying tax on, you could run through your business as an expense. So you need a business bank account, you need a merchant provider. And if you set up a Charles Stanley account, then what you can do is you can have your business money and you can protect it from inflation and put it into Charles Stanley and maybe invest it in some markets. By the way, when you have a business account, you can also loan money to other accounts, which I'm going to get to in a moment. And then you can maximize tax breaks, which I'm also going to get to in a moment. So account number 6 that you want if you want to manage money, like the 1% rich, is you want an SPV or a special purpose vehicle. Now that's a fancy term for a separate, probably limited company. Now, my business partner and I, we own once our recent 2 we've just bought are developed, it'll be nearly 440 property units. And we have one 100 apartment block, which is in a separate SPV. Then we have all of our older buy-to-lets in a separate SPV. Then when we have private financers, we set up our portfolio with them in an SPV. So it's essentially just a glorified separated company. So what that does is it limits your liability to that company as long as you don't give personal guarantees. So that's good. But it's very tax efficient for investing in property. It is not tax efficient to invest in property in your personal name anymore. They ruined all that a few years ago in the UK. Having a limited SPV company is very tax efficient for property. It also means you can lend money and borrow money between some of your personal and your business accounts. It means that high net worths can essentially invest into that company without them getting benefits of your other assets that you own. And you can start to offset losses and run repairs and expenses and dilapidations and all kinds of tax breaks through your SPV, limited company property account. And most people don't know this, by the way. Okay, and then the seventh type of account I believe you should have is what I call, well, there's a personal pension and then there's a private pension. So look, if you're employed, you should probably be claiming your state pension, doing your salary sacrifice, because why wouldn't you? But I don't want the state controlling my pension, and I'm not employed, I'm unemployable. So I don't qualify for that. But I do use my personal pension, where 60,000 a year I have as an allowance, tax-free in my company in the UK. I can take out of my business, not pay corporation tax on it, and then it can go and be invested. Now, again, I use Charles Stanley, where my 60 grand a year, and our business partner 60 grand a year, and our other shareholders 60 grand a year each, all go into our pension, which is, I guess, your private pension. And then you can invest that in the stock market, or you can invest that in commercial property. So I just bought a row of shops and then a big first floor company, and then second floor where we could develop into like penthouse, and just bought that cash in the pension. Now, actually, you can also have some gearing in a pension where you can get, I think, about 33% loan to value. But the great thing about having this private pension is you get to choose where you invest it. In the state pension, the state invests it, and they have been known to take from it or borrow against it. You're not in control of it. Whereas from your company, you get a 60 grand tax break, and you get to invest the money yourself. So I can put it in the funds that I like, and I can buy property I like with it. And it's just so much better, I think, than governments and central organizations managing your money. And if you would like to move from the bottom 10% to the top 10% to the top 1%, the way that you do that is you have to observe the rich, learn from the rich, and then do what the rich do. The one main way to get rich is to get rich people in your network or learn from rich people and do what rich people do. As they say, success leaves clues. You are the sum of the 5 people you hang around with, whether it's online or in person. So if you're around people who don't have ambition, who are living just over broke, then you're going to be the 6th. However, I've got nearly 15,000 movers, shakers, game changers, and change makers inside Money.School. So if you'd like to access hundreds of hours of courses, resources, and masterclasses to make, manage, and multiply money, to start and scale a business, to get your income streams up, but really importantly, get your tax bill down. I've actually just now, today, put into Money.School some of my approved brokers, accountants, and tax advisors, so you can get great advice so that you don't waste tens of thousands a year in tax. So if you'd like to join right now for less than 50p a day, less than I've spent on coffee in the last 48 hours, and you can cancel anytime, no ongoing contract, the link is Money.School. And I've been an entrepreneur for 2 decades, have 100 staff. We do 22 to 25 million a year in sales. So everything I've ever learned goes into Money.School. Now I'm bringing in my contacts, the accountants, the brokers, and the tax advisors, so that you can make more money. But the worst thing to do is to make more money and then have to give more than half of it back in taxes. So it's about making money well, managing it better, and then saving in taxes, and then investing it to multiply. So go join right now by clicking the link or typing in Money.School. And remember, invest for freedom, choice, and profit. And if you don't risk anything, you risk everything.